Hello and welcome to another episode of Busy on Break. It's been a little while since we've last been on air, but we are back and better than ever. And obviously, wearing a Eagles Super Bowl champions hat. Birds won the Super Bowl. Go Birds. Woo. Let's go.
Woo.
How you guys doing?
Doing well. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing pretty good. Things have been pretty good. I'm officially on spring break right now.
Oh,
so things have things are very difficult within school, but I'm definitely managing and everything. Rylan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm an American citizen. What else do you need to know, man? We're living the life right now, living the dream. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
it's not COVID anymore.
COVID is over.
COVID's over and done with.
Biden told us it's done. You can't get it anymore. So
Fauci's telling us not to wear the masks anymore. So
thank you, Dave Grohl. We'll see you on next episode of Busy on Break. I'm kidding. All right. Like I said, this is another episode of Busy on Break. Let's get to the conversation. Yo, yo, yo.
Yo, yo, yo.
What a great start to the podcast.
Excellent.
Well, what's been going on with you, Shane? How's everything going?
Yeah, things are going well. Just, work's been pretty stressful. We're getting into tax season, so my days are long, hard, and merciless. Working, 8 to 10 hours a day. And then luckily this weekend, I'll be heading down to Florida for about a week. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Oh, that's amazing. What place in Florida are you looking at? Like Southern Florida, Northern Florida?
So I'm going down to Key Largo, Florida, from Sunday to Thursday, and then we'll probably do a day trip to Key West, and then we'll probably do a day trip to the great place of Miami as well.
That's amazing. Okay, yeah, dude, you better send me a whole bunch of pics.
I'll be sending you a whole lot of pics. Different kinds of pics.
I was about to say.
Better see those bikini pictures.
Yeah, those
Speedo
pictures are coming.
I don't like you that way, okay?
I'll send you a picture of me in a Speedo.
Oh, no.
With my thumb up.
We're off to a great start here, ladies and gentlemen.
Excellent start.
Rylan, how is it going with you? What's been going on with your life?
Well, same here. It's tax season, so I'm actually getting ready to file taxes today with my wife. So
our block.
we get to joint, file for the first time ever. Squad goals. So, it's tax season and it sucks. And then we got March Madness coming up. So if you give a shit about Duke, they're gonna do something in the bracket. I don't know. Maybe bust, maybe win. Who knows? They might win and bust. Sometimes it's mutual, but
Sometimes.
but yeah, it's March. So here we go.
Well, I think that's a pretty good segue into our first topic, and that's specifically going to be about working and I would say maybe the average working experience for the average millennial, I guess. I guess the first thing that I have to ask, and Shane, I'll start with you. What is your experience working in corporate America?
Yeah, well, I've worked in corporate America for about 8.5 years, and overall, I've had a decent experience working for the company that I do currently work for. I will say it can be very, very taxing sometimes, especially during certain parts of the year, like end of the year for me, like December, March, April for tax season.
Yeah.
I'm working like sometimes 10 to 12 hours a day sometimes. So it can be very like mentally taxing on you.
Yeah.
And then, during COVID, we worked from home for 2.5 years. And now
that must have been amazing.
It was definitely amazing. But now we're back in the office. So, the office, the commute to the office, the wear and tear in your car, the gas money, sitting in traffic. And then obviously, coming into work and, dealing with different coworkers, different managers. That it can be very taxing, but there's great benefits to working in corporate America. You get your 401k, you get your healthcare, you get good PTO. So it's got its pros and cons.
So there was one time for the company that I worked for, while they were dealing with COVID, they sent everybody home. I believe it was for about 6 months or something like that. Nobody had to report to work or anything. They literally just got paid for, staying
Nice.
home and doing nothing. It was one of the best, I would say, like things that I've ever seen any business deal with in terms of COVID.
Yeah, I remember in March 2020, like we were working in this warehouse building. It was like a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
They moved us to this building, and my supervisor at the time, she walked up to me and said, like, "Hey Shane, like, would you mind working from home?" And I'm like, absolutely
Yeah,
not.
dude.
I'd love to work from home. This will be great. She's like, it's not official yet, but it could be. So I'll keep you posted. And then by the end of the day, they're like, yeah, we guys are all working from home, and we're all like, yes, this is great.
I remember that time vividly because my manager was, well, today you can work from home. That's what he said, but we'll be back next week. And then the following week, he's like, you know what? We might be here working from home for a couple more weeks. And I told him, I was like, I don't think we're coming back for a while. Like, I think going to the office is done for a long time. And it was 2 years, essentially.
2.5 years, man. Yeah.
He's like, don't worry. We'll get other people on the team because someone had just like quit. And I was filling like 2 roles at the time. He's like, we'll get another person to work for us. And that never happened. Like,
no.
like hiring froze.
Yep.
People just worked from home. And they made the best with what they had because that was it. That was your team. There was no new members.
It was kind of funny because I feel like your manager was trying to play the role of like, hey, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, don't worry about anything. But in his head, he knew
He's
like
freaking out.
shit's hitting the fan
Yeah.
and we're going to be working from home for a long time.
Yeah.
But we're not going to tell you that.
I mean, that's part of being in business is just knowing how to bullshit people. And as a manager, your job is to make you feel as the lower level employee comfortable and
Valued.
happy if they're doing a good job. So he was just trying to do a good job, and I don't fault him at all for doing what he did. But if you have any common sense and you can connect the dots, you're like, this shit was in China 2 months ago, and now it's spreading everywhere. Mm-hmm. Like we're not safe in the office. We obviously cannot go back. Like,
Got a social distance, man.
and there was the whole it just goes on and on after like March of 2020.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just corporate America has shifted so much since 2020.
I was going to say, I mean, before 2020, it was like almost all corporations, you were in the office working 5 days a week.
Yep.
Now we're in a hybrid schedule. I think you are as well.
Yeah.
But
That might change again. That might change too.
That might change back to
It
the
might go
office
back
soon.
to 5 days a week.
Yeah. it's
Now,
true.
I have a question for you guys. Do you guys prefer like fully remote or do you prefer like a hybrid? Maybe you go into now, me personally, I would prefer to be remote about 3 days a week and then go into the office for 2 days a week.
I think that's ideal, like 2 to 3 in the office and the rest at home. For me personally, some people want 5 remote, some people want 5 in the office, but I think you can't make everyone happy, and like the hybrid is the compromise.
Yeah, I think the hybrid is a good model. But me personally, I'd love 5 days fully remote at home just to save the gas money and just have more time back. But there is every once in a while going into the office and seeing people that you like, that you work with, can be a breath of fresh air.
I will say the hybrid approach does kind of balance things out because something I am guilty of when I work remote is I work like odd hours. So like I will work the 8 hours that day, but it might be working like 10 at night, because I just sometimes my brain just isn't firing as quickly at 1 p.m. as it is at like 6 p.m. or whatever. Whereas if you're going into the office, you had to wake up early to get on the road. So you just want to get your work done 9 to 5 and then the rest of the day is yours.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you're working remote, like time kind of changes a little bit, and I don't know, that's not necessarily the best thing. So
Yeah, that's a good point, man, because everyone I feel like operates a little bit differently. So like I find like I do my best work sometimes like at night as well, but when you're in the office you can't do that. Like you have to complete your work then and there.
yeah.
Absolutely. Rylan, what's your experience with corporate conferences? And
Okay.
I'm going to imagine that there's like some extreme level of, bull crappery.
Yeah.
I mean, you essentially have to say whatever the heck you have to say in order to keep your managers happy.
Yeah.
And what's your experience, your general experience dealing with that?
To be fair balance, I have a very limited experience with corporate conferences. I've gone to one. although I've been invited to more than just one. But the one I went to was kind of eye opening because like Shane and I were talking about this on the way here. So one of their ways of getting people to go is picking out destinations that sound fun in theory. You're like, oh, I am 10 minutes from a beach, but you never get to see the beach. You're like, oh, I am near this party, city. I get to go have fun after work. But you're so tired after the conferences. Do you really have fun, or are you just eating your dinner and ready to go to bed? So my experiences with the corporate conference lifestyle, one, it's unnecessary. I mean, the capital that goes into these things is immense. Could be millions of dollars. I don't really know. But when you consider flights, hotels, the venue, food, because they provide food, which is nice, but it's not necessarily the best food, but it's not cheap. And ultimately, if you're not single, you just want to go home at the end of the day to your significant other, whether it's your wife, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, husband, whatever you got going at home. You just wish you were home at the end of the day. You don't want to be stuck in, let's say, Naples, Florida, or wherever the hell you're located. Las Vegas. Like, yeah, Vegas is great when you're with your boys or when you're a lady with the girls, but when you're there Monday through Friday, that's conference time. That's not party time. Vegas parties on the weekends. During the week, it's corporate, and it feels like you're not getting the full experience. It feels like you're constantly looking for that justification of coming there, and it's never going to happen. You're always going to be like, why did I go to this thing?
100%, especially the amount of capital that goes into it. Like everyone, if they ship everyone out to Vegas, that's costs tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands, if it's a full department. But
I'm assuming they might be even upgrading you. I mean, do they typically upgrade you to business class if you're going to be doing something like that?
No, there's
Not
no way.
in my
No,
experience.
absolutely not. They're going to pay
Not for me.
economy
Yeah.
at most, but you'd think so. But
Yeah.
I think what it really comes down to is like a lot of these conferences, they go from 8 a.m. to 5, but some conferences go from 8 a.m. to like 9 at night.
Oh
Yeah.
my! What?
There's a lot of conferences that do this. So like,
What do you have to discuss?
bullshit. But like, if you think of like a SEMA conference, like SEMA, or like the computers CSS or whatever it is, like that conference runs from like 8 a.m. to like 10 p.m. at night. So you're not able to really see the Vegas Strip, or you're not able to go to the beach because you're in those conference rooms during that time, and you are so exhausted by the end of it that you just either want to go to bed or you want to drink your face off. And that can be tough, because if you make a fool out of yourself, you pass out in front of your coworkers. Ooh. That could be really bad for your career. Or let's just say you're like a married guy, and one thing leads to another. You guys go out to some bar, the drinks start flowing, you end up hooking up with someone and ruining your marriage. Like I was on a work trip to Boston one time, and I actually like saw like two of my coworkers who were both married. They ended up hooking up, and
Interesting.
That got really bad for the department actually. And then I've seen it where I've been at a conference myself, and I was single at the time, and I ended up hooking up with someone, and that could have been very career ending as well. So it's not ideal. Ideally, you don't want to be. I mean, these conferences, like, there's a lot of downside and not really much upside.
Yeah, I still struggle to think why they do them at all. And the only thing I can think of is some people do like conferences. Some people do want to work for a company that takes you to places each year. So it's almost like a marketing ploy where they're like, oh, last year we were at Miami. This year we're going to be at Vegas. Why don't you join the team? And people are like, oh, I got to go to these conferences because it's so much fun. But you don't really know what they do until you're in the conference. And then it's these team building exercises. Icebreakers are all, it's just presentations all day about shit that doesn't relate to your job. It's like, if you're not in sales, this conference doesn't matter to you at all, because most of it's for the sales team. Those conferences are really for the sales team to like network. And then if you're, let's say you're at, you work out of headquarters and you have team members that are working in the field, so this is what they call it, like they work in sales in the field or wherever. And then you try to like talk to these different groups that you never get to see. They don't want to even talk to you. They're kind of weirded out by you. They're like, I don't recognize you. You're not on my team. So this idea that you're going to mix with all these new people, you don't really mix with anyone.
No.
You just stick to your own
You
group.
stick to your own team.
Yeah.
Because the other people that are there, if they're in a different department and they don't see you as someone valuable, they're not going to want to network with you.
Yeah. I mean, some are cool, like 1 out of the 10 are cool. They want to tell you about their life. Like I talked to this person that lived in Phoenix, Arizona. Never met this person, learned a little bit about Phoenix, Arizona. Sounds like a cool city if I ever go out there. Like I actually learned something in that conversation. Everyone else just kind of looks at you like, why are you sitting here? Who are you?
It's
what do you
awkward
want? Like
conversations.
they're almost questioning your motives. Like, you know, this idea of like networking, I don't know how it works because I've never really was good at networking. Like, I don't think it really works.
Yeah, honestly, like I'm not good at networking either, to be honest. Like I think for networking, people are very like deliberate and they want to work in a certain field and they find someone that's in a high position in that field and then they try to network with that person. But if you're just like a regular person trying to network with random people who don't like work in your area, then it's kind of pointless. Like these conferences are kind of pointless because they're like, why would I want to talk to this the way they think is, why would I want to talk to this person that has nothing to do with my job?
So it seems like the crux of networking in business America is using people as leverage to work your way up to a better position. So you're basically treating people as disposable objects. You're like, you're not Shane, you're my next step to whatever field I'm trying to go into.
And then they network with that person, they get that job through that person, and then afterwards they're like, I don't need to
like
talk to this person
once
anymore.
they're like your manager, you know,
Yeah.
they're treating you like dirt.
They're treating you like dirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've personally never really liked networking for the purpose
It
of
takes
like
too much work.
it's too much work, it's too much effort.
Yeah, I mean, what I've noticed with networking, it's a lot of talk and absolutely no action.
Yes.
And you know, people are like super excited about wanting to do something. Like maybe you want to try and get, X action done, and you want to try to get it done within a certain amount of time. That time comes, and sometimes they just won't follow up with anything.
There's groups that just all they do is make events to network. It's like you can go on like what's that, meetup.com, and then it'd be like whatever industry you're interested in. They just have networking events. Like what are you doing at these things?
To me, that just seems like a job fair. I really don't know the answer to having stuff like that, but I do want to get to something else here. One of you guys bought a suitcase to an interview. Which one of you was that?
Okay, so
Shane was like, "Go right to you."
It's a power move.
to be clear, I wrote down suitcase, but I meant to say briefcase. But I brought this old school briefcase that my dad gave me.
Identifies as
So Shane, when you came over and my dad wanted to give you like the fisherman's vest to keep you warm, he was like, I'm starting out into like my industry. I'm trying to get a job. My dad's like, bring this briefcase with you and like keep documents. So
Documents your birth certificate.
What kind of documents?
I have my resume and like a notebook in there, and I go to my first real job interview with this briefcase. And the person that hired me thought it was hilarious. They're like, "What's with this briefcase?" Because it's like this 1980s briefcase that no one works with anymore. And I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just bringing this briefcase. And
Was
like,
it broken at the seams as well? Like
it's tearing up and like it's got like a lock to it. And I think I got my job because of the briefcase because they thought it was so funny. Yeah, they thought it was hilarious. They're like, this guy's
Good sense of
hilarious.
humor.
Yeah, that's like a secret thing in business. Like if you can use props in your interview, like people like props, dude.
It reminds me of like Step Brothers when they went into Foot Locker and they wore suits to
Like
the
tuxedos,
interview.
yeah.
They wore tuxedos to the interview. And the guy was like, I find that funny as hell. And then they farted and the guy was like, no, the tuxedos seem kind of fucked up.
That's the thing. Like one person's gonna get your humor and just be like,
Yes.
I like this.
I
Like,
want to spend time with this guy.
this guy's kind of funny. Like,
guy's great.
You brought a tuxedo to work the interview. Like this is funny. But yeah, I guess that's a brief example of like if you're in a job interview, don't take it too seriously. View it almost like what we're doing here. Like you can set up your setting. You can wear sometimes I used to wear these thick frame glasses. They like that shit. You look like sophisticated.
Really?
Yeah, just view it as like you're
Wait.
going on stage.
I'm
Like,
gonna get more sophisticated.
yeah, get sophisticated. Let's see it. I'm gonna get sophisticated
these
too.
glasses.
glasses, please?
Oh yes, here you
Yeah,
go.
we're gonna get sophisticated here. All right.
I'm sophisticated.
Yep, we're getting sophisticated.
Yep.
Cause like think about, are they gonna hire the frat boy or the nerd? They want to hire the nerd on the job. So if you look, I mean, I'm not saying you're a nerd, Joe, but you kind of look like the lead singer of Weezer right now. Like,
Oh my god!
like everyone loves Weezer. Why? Because they're nerds that play good music. Like there's something to it. You know?
Hey, it's all right. You can destroy my sweater any day.
So I guess my advice to anyone, and this applies to me too, when you're going for an interview, try to like bring a briefcase or something cool, like or nerdy or something that stands out.
Wear a bow tie.
Yeah, a bow tie, dude. A bow tie, who wears bow ties? Very
no
few.
one wears bow ties.
Very
anymore
few
to
people.
the weatherman.
stand
The
out.
weatherman
Yeah, I
does.
mean, it seems like he wears it all the
Everyone
time.
trusts him for some reason. It's that bow tie. You know?
He's wrong 80% of the time.
Yeah, he's always wrong, but he wears that bow tie, and we still listen to him.
we
you
listen
know?
to it just because of it.
Yeah.
You know, the one person that really comes to mind. Holy cow! Yeah, I really look like a nerd here. By the way, these glasses are really blotchy.
Yeah, you got to clean those lenses.
Yeah, take that information for what you will. But yeah, so like I said, we're kind of like in the Philadelphia area. I mean, we're obviously not in Philly, but we used to have a weatherman called Glenn Hurricane Schwartz, and he was like the clear definition of what it looks like to be like a nerd. Like he always had a bow tie all the time. He always had a bow tie, and I don't know. I guess it kind of just fitted his persona.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Can I be transparent?
Please.
I hate Glenn Hurricane Schwartz. I have a personal beef with him, so
Wait.
What's your personal beef?
I just don't like him. He's always wrong about the weather.
Just like your dad has a personal beef with Ronald Darby.
Yes, my dad did not like his cornerback play for the Eagles, and
Darby!
I personally don't like Glenn Hurricane. So if he sees this, we might have to fight. So
I would always bring him up. I'm like, oh, look at Darby. And your dad would be like, oh, no, Darby.
he's not Ronald Darby. Yeah.
It's not Ronald Darby. He'd be like, oh, I hate Darby. He was so vindictive towards Darby.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the briefcase story.
Yeah.
I think it got me my job, basically.
Probably
So-
did. Probably did.
To kind of go along because oh my gosh, we seem to be able to go forever with this corporate stuff, but there's a guy. So picture in your head, this guy is always well dressed. He always has like, I don't know, maybe he has like a pink shirt on with khakis. He's chugging bottles of water all the time. Like
that
you can
reminds me-
imagine, type A personality. Yo, you got to get this done, this done, this done, this done. I mean, I used to work with certain people like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I cannot stand them.
They're
Yeah.
insufferable.
They are insane.
There's a there's a guy in Boston. His name's Davis Clark, and oh my God, he is absolutely insufferable. He's like, oh man, we're gonna kill it. It's Monday morning. We're gonna bang out some spreadsheets, boys. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time getting hype about work. I mean, I do my job the way I'm asked to and then some, but I mean, it's not something I go on social media and talk about. It's like, I'm just doing my job.
I
Like,
think he's a very good marketer because no one's doing that. No one's
Yeah.
pumped up about their corporate 9-to-5 job. No one likes going to the water cooler and talking to their bullshit coworkers. Like he had a really good marketing strategy, and I feel like he's a really good grifter.
Yeah.
He grifted on that, and he's gotten millions of followers. He's gotten tons of brand deals. I think in a year or two, he's not going to be working in corporate America. He's
No.
going to be like a full-time influencer.
he'll be selling like maybe whatever product on this podcast or
He'll be
something.
selling like watches or something like
Yeah.
that. Watches and jewelry, I think.
Makes sense.
I mean, I get the idea of like, everyone wants to work from home, so I'm going to advertise I go into work 5 days a week.
To rise up the hierarchy.
But just like in my opinion, just keep it to yourself because like we were saying before, we started out in our careers where 5 days a week was like non-negotiable. You just had to go in 5 days a week. That's the way it was. COVID did not exist then. Working remote was rare, only for people that worked their way up the ladder. And then when you finally get to that like independence of where I can make my own schedule each day and I'll work my 8 hours how I choose, and I'm working remote, I'm saving gas money, whatever. And then you hear this person just being like, "Oh, where's everyone in the office? You know, where's the leaders?" And you're like, "Fuck, dude, I don't want to go over there. Like, fuck that shit." Like,
no, he did something that no one else was doing. Like everyone, when they make corporate cringe videos, it's always like joking, laughing, complaining. But he was the one guy that said, "I just love going on the train, getting up in the morning and going to work and slugging fucking waters." It's just like, dude, shut the fuck up. Keep it to yourself. 'Cause he's fucking everything up for other people.
yeah, I mean, like, good for you. Like, please continue to do what you think is, good work ethic. I have nothing against it.
And he will
That's
move
fine.
up.
Yeah, you
up
will
in that
move up.
company.
You
We're
will
doing
show someone who also is 5 days a week, that's higher up than yourself. They'll see that as initiative. Like, it does work. That will work.
It will work.
But you don't have to go on Instagram to do that. Like, you can just do what you do and people will notice. Like,
I completely agree. He decided to just I don't think Davis actually likes going to the office.
I don't think so,
I think
yeah.
he used it as a ploy to say like, "Hey, here's my in. Everyone
Yeah.
hates corporate America. I'm going to be the guy who makes cringy videos that I love corporate America. I love going into the office.
Yeah.
I love, fucking doing spreadsheets." And it worked for him.
And
It definitely worked.
But here's the other thing. This could only work for a younger crowd because these boomers are like, "What do you mean? You work
we did this our whole career.
you went in 5 days yeah, good for you, sport. Like, I do this for the last 30 fucking years and I didn't go on Instagram once talking about it." Like,
Davis is like 25, 26.
Yeah, like-
so he knew his audience very well.
Yeah, because the 25, 26-year-old a couple years ago only knew what it was like working in corporate America remotely. Like, it was foreign to go in the office 5 days a week. But everyone else is like, all right, and you also tied your shoes, you brushed your teeth. What else do you do you want to gloat about? You put on cologne? Okay, like, great. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, good for you, man. Like, I don't know.
You're supposed to complete your spreadsheets on time.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I mean, I like my job, but I don't like it that much.
No.
I don't think no one does. That's the thing.
Exactly.
You cannot honestly tell me that just doing mundane tasks is worth Instagram. You just can't.
I think he read a lot of Jordan Peterson books, and he said, "Hey, this is a way for me to get followers, to get clout, and also rise up the corporate ladder." And all of it was like a sham. Like, he might have turned off the camera after making those videos and was like, one more down. Like, I'm getting closer to being able to quit my corporate job.
Yeah.
Like, I think Davis Clark had a very selfish motive there.
Yeah.
be.
Good for him, though.
Well-
Good for it. It worked out.
So speaking of selfish motives, I think this is a great segue into. So you have someone they're a very senior position in their job, and the very moment that you try to go against anything that these people say, it's almost like they have this inflated ego. Now, number one, what kind of ego stories do you guys have in terms of dealing with, some stuck-up idiot that? Well, I know you have one.
Do we have 5 hours?
Yeah. The one that comes to mind immediately, like I said, one of my first jobs, I had to work with this person that wasn't my manager, but behaved like she was. So I reported to my manager. I did everything, within reason. My manager says, "Hey, I need this by Friday." I got it done, and then that was it. Like, I had completed what was expected of me for the week. But then she would show up out of the blue, like during my Wednesday, like Monday through Friday, I have my set strategy, and she tries to just dump her shit onto my schedule. And then when I don't get it done because I'm focusing on what my directives were, well, I don't know why you didn't do what I said. I might have to talk to the director. And I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with this lady? Like,
She was trying to use authority that she didn't have.
She
over
did
you.
not have authority. That was the thing. And I would talk to my manager and be like, because I was new, I was like, "Is this true? Can I get fired for this?" And he's like, "No, like, I'm the one that decides if you get fired. Like, listen to me, and you'll be okay." And I was like, "All right, I will do what you tell me to do." But it's this ego. Like, people have this ego. They cannot be just your coworker. They want to be your superior.
I think people in general like power, and I
Yeah.
think for her, she sounds like she was older, like probably in her 60s. And she's like her whole career, she was never in a position of power. And then when she sees someone who's like much younger, half her age, like in the same position to her, it makes her think like inward and say like, what the fuck have I been doing these past 30 years?
Well, there's probably some self-reflection, and she doesn't want to, work through that and be like, well, I am where I'm at, but how do I get better? It's like, no, we talked about this on the way here. It's like, instead of building up the next, round of employees, I'm going to push them down so I can like step on top of them.
So that she can feel better about herself.
And maybe rise up to manager by showing, I bossed this person around, I know what I'm doing kind of thing. Like,
yeah. And I feel like in corporate America, it's all about like when people try to rise up the company, there's two avenues you can do it. You can work really, really hard and perfect your skill and do good work. And then there's the people who, that just like step on each other's toes, backstab people, try to make people look incompetent while making themselves look really good. And you can do either. Ideally, you want to do the first one, but you're always going to have people in corporate America that just want to try to step on your toes to get where they want to go.
Yeah, I have a small story, but and unfortunately the guy is deceased. So I'd obviously try to be a little bit light on him. But I used to work in retail, and this was, I believe, just after a year that COVID hit. And long story short, there was so the store that I worked at, we were not allowed to have anybody or any customers use the restrooms that we had in the store. We didn't have any public restrooms. So this one customer kind of duped me and said, "Oh, I'm suffering from cancer. I need to use the bathroom here." I was like, "Well, there's a CVS right next door. You can go over to there and use the restrooms there." She's like, "Oh, I have to use it now. It's an emergency." I'm like, "Okay, fine." So it was I kind of viewed it as a bit of an emergency situation. Well, to give you an idea of what this guy looked like, he had like long blonde hair. He did a whole bunch of meth, cocaine, like a whole bunch of things back in the day. Like he's basically one of the guys that used to work in construction. He's one of those hard asses, for lack of a better term. And as soon as the customer was done using the restroom, he takes me outside. Keep in mind, this guy's not my manager. He takes me outside and points directly at this sign, "No public restrooms," and like berates me for about 5 minutes, like yelling at me.
You can read. You understand what the sign says. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like the guy was absolutely like going way over his authority, and I mean, I don't know. The guy wasn't even a manager. He was like a sales associate. But
right, he is trying to like show someone, I don't know who he thinks he's showing, I'm management material by chewing out my coworker.
Yeah, it's all about, I think it comes back to like the whole like hierarchy things. I think people always try to rise up the hierarchy, and people that are on their level, they try to push them down. So I think that guy just wanted to prove that he was management level, and he wanted to try to like dominate you.
So Joe, how did you proceed from there? Because it's very awkward. Like I've been in that position. Did you feel threatened by this person? Like your job was on the line when you had to work with them? Like I would figure like every time you're on the same shift, you're like kind of rolling your eyes when you see that. Right?
Yeah, I really didn't think much of it. I just kind of brushed it off and continued to work. The thing is, I knew for a fact that my job wasn't going to be on the line whatsoever, because they needed people. Like, as long as you were a breathing human, as long as your body was warm, you were pretty much hired at this place. Like, that's how, strapped for associates they were. But, I tried to, take it and, just roll with it the best I could. Honestly, I don't want to say I held a grudge against this guy, but I just made an effort to not
interact with him.
Interact with him or anything.
And then when the customer went to the back of the store or whatever and went to the restroom, that's all they did. Like, they didn't steal anything, right?
No, they didn't steal anything whatsoever.
I mean, I would imagine that's their concern, why they don't let people use the bathroom. Like, is it near like merchandise that,
So it was relatively expensive merchandise. Now, should I have done that? Probably not. Should I have been reamed out the way
No.
that I was?
No,
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, but
And it's a gray area. I mean, the guy has cancer, so if you deny him that,
That could be a lawsuit.
that could be a lawsuit.
That could be a
I mean,
lawsuit.
you got to think about it more than just what the sign says. Like sometimes the law also says something else.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he was just trying to like show dominance. And
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
really
well,
what
that's
it
all
was.
this guy does. I mean, he constantly paraded around the store saying that his nickname is Sweet Meat.
Okay.
Take what
So,
you will.
so
with
he's
that.
telling a bunch of men.
Is this
that,
the same
you know,
guy that like was kind of like creepy? Like he'd do some creepy interactions with you guys. Like
So he was the one that called one of my coworkers a not so great name
uh-huh.
and basically stormed out of the store. And his district manager was completely aware of it, and he didn't even fire him. So I'm like, why on earth are you still working here?
Yeah.
Especially after saying this particular, I'm just going to say it's a slur. I'm not going to say what it is. But it was a particular slur towards a particular individual based on the music that they were playing. I'm like, why on earth would you say something like that? And the guy still had his job.
So, but you said this guy that was difficult to work with at your job, he's deceased now.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's deceased right now. He did a whole bunch of drugs back in the day, back in the 80s, and I believe he was also an alcoholic. So I mean, I believe he passed away somewhere around a year ago or something
Okay.
like
Wow.
that. But anyways, going away from that, so why do you guys think that businesses want you back in the office? Now, obviously, I think we can exclude a couple of, job types here, like retail. That's pretty obvious. Like if you have a store, you need to have sales associates and people with expertise in that particular, item. So why do you think, for example, software engineers, financial advisors, like anything, or customer support, anything that can be done remotely? Why do you think that businesses want to have them in the office? Do you think it's about control?
Yes, so I think there's two reasons behind it. I think the monetary reason behind it that will never be told to the employees is a lot of these companies are locked into like 10, 20, 30-year long-term leases. So they need to have their workers in the building unless there's like not some sort of like emergency situation like COVID. So they need to have people occupying the buildings for their real estate value. That's the monetary reason. But you nailed it. I think the biggest reason is management wants to be able to see their employees. They want to be able to have the ability to micromanage them, see if they're slacking off. A lot of people, when they work from home, sometimes myself included, not all the time, but you've got your couch, you've got your bed, there's a lot more distractions. They're monitoring to see if people are more productive in the office, and they want to have that level of control over them as opposed to letting them work at home. So they'll say like, hey, we want you in the office for better collaboration, for camaraderie, but it's not
I just
those
threw up
reasons.
a little bit.
It's not those reasons. It comes down to the real estate value of the buildings and the fact that they want to micromanage you. But management's never going to tell the employees that, because it's a difficult message, and the employees would be like, well, that's not my problem. But it's easier for them to say, we want you back in the office to better collaborate, for that camaraderie, the culture, because it's harder for employees to like say, oh, that's bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think to add on that is they're kind of lying. Like the company's lying to you when they say, oh, it's for collaboration. But also when we were in the 5 days from home work environment, they were telling us how efficient we all are. And don't worry, the company's doing just fine. We're actually doing better than when we were in the office. And it's like, well, which is it? Are we doing better or worse when we work 5 days a week from home? Is there any data that shows that working 5 days in the office is better? Is there any data showing that hybrid schedules are better? I've talked to managers about this. They're not getting any data to prove one way or the other. So it's like, if this isn't driven on like the truth, which is like profit or like some measurable thing, then they're just kind of lying to you, telling you it's one reason or the next. Like, how do you know that collaboration's leading to better value? Like, how do you prove that? You know, you're just saying shit, but how do you prove it?
I think it's really hard to prove because they'd have to track like each individual person's performance in a department when they're at home and when they're in the office. And like,
So difficult
if
to
you're
do.
like an accountant or if you're like, a software engineer, that's really hard to track. Like, it's really tough.
Yeah,
to track.
I mean, a lot of jobs, unless you're in sales, a lot of jobs aren't really measurable based on these like
numbers.
yeah, like there's really you're just another piece of the puzzle. Like your output doesn't lead to that many dollars. You don't really know if working in the office leads to more dollars or less dollars, or if working from home is the same way. Like you don't know these things. So I think it gets into what you're saying. It's about control. It's about real estate contracts. It's about if they own
Own the building or they
own the
lease
building, how is the real estate going to be worth more if no one's actually using the building?
Yes.
Like it has to be. It's all like about that. It has to be about.
occupied.
That's the only reason why.
Yeah, and they'll never tell you because it's a complex thing. It's a complicated matter.
Yeah.
Once you get into long-term leases, it gets really in depth. So they would never tell the employees that. They would just say, "Hey, we want to better our culture. We
Yeah.
want to collaborate with you
Right.
more."
Ew.
It's like that's complete bullshit.
It's much easier to just use blanketed terms like collaboration and culture than be like, really, we're trying to make as much money as possible. And if you ever have a question about why they do stuff, just think like, what is the incentive monetarily?
Monetarily. It all
How do
comes
they
back to
make money
monetarily.
doing this? And maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe they make better sales if everyone's remote or in the office, but they know that they have those obligations to their contract, like you're saying, for the lease on the building,
Yep.
or if they own the building, how are they going to sell this building to the next company if no one's using it?
Yes.
It's just going to be a vacant building. Like the only thing it's worth is the land itself, and then you level the building, I guess. if no
Right,
one
because it's
uses
a lot
it.
harder to sell a vacant building to another company. Let's just say your lease is up in end of 2025 and you're trying to sell it to another company and you say, well, it's vacant right now. We don't there's no employees working in there. That makes for a tough negotiation.
Right. I mean, so first of all, if the building is functional but no one's using it, you still need your like plumbers to make sure
Yep.
that there's no leaks. You need, the roofers to make sure the roof's not leaking. Like there's still a maintenance
Electricians.
cost, whether electricity needs to be running throughout the building. You can't just let the pipes freeze up in the wintertime, so you got to run the heat. Like these are all like maintenance costs. These are all like things that cost money. And if you're trying to sell this building to the next corporation, they're going to be like, why would we buy this huge building if you can't even fill it out? What are we going to do with all this extra space? You know?
And I think from a macro level as well, like if you think about it, if everyone is working from home, then less people are using gas to drive on the highways, less people are buying from the local restaurants. There's a lot of people that got businesses that just got slaughtered in COVID
Yeah.
because everyone was working from home and they weren't out spending their dollars at PJ Willihan's. They weren't out spending it at Applebee's, because they're eating from home, they're cooking from home. So it's hard to run a full scale economy when everyone's working from home.
Yeah.
Well, I also think it's like we didn't give it a fair shot because during COVID, like you couldn't go to a restaurant. You could only do takeout.
Yes.
So I think it would have been a better experiment once it was all said and done. Let's just keep to the 5 days a week from home. Let's sell all the real estate or whatever and see how it goes. But I think they're afraid of losing that control because then they can't watch over you in your cubicle. You're free to set your schedule the way you feel like.
Yep. They don't want that.
That kind of autonomy is usually given to like senior level people, not just peons like us.
Just beyond
Yeah.
peasants like
Yeah,
us.
it's not going to happen unless like a worldwide pandemic is happening.
Right, exactly. When they have to.
They have no choice.
They're given directive by like a Fauci or someone like that.
And like the genie's out of the lamp now. We know we can work from home, but they're still trying to feed us this culture thing, this collaboration thing. But we know we can collaborate. We know we
Yep.
can do our job.
Here's the thing too is like we know that, they know we know that, but they're like, well, what are you gonna do about it?
Right now, it's just a
You know?
power struggle.
It's a power struggle. Be like, yeah, you can work from home. I know you can work from home, but you can't.
Yeah, we're not going to let you.
We're not gonna let
your
you.
ass is in the office, for the next 3 days, or when they finally just say, fuck it, let's rip off this Band-Aid and make you all come in at 5, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like if you're if someone's like scamming you out of your money and you can do nothing about it. It's like, I know you're scamming me, and they're like, but you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it is.
I mean, it is what it is. That's where
Clearly it's possible, because I mean, in my master's program, like, we are able to live stream classes. Like, there's really no reason for a lot of students to be like in classes anymore, because it can be recorded. I mean, honestly, I don't know why professors don't use it more often, but clearly the collaboration aspect is absolutely there, and it's too bad that more people don't take advantage of it. But so we are actually almost out of time here.
Okay.
And I wanted to get to one last, maybe more of a lighthearted question here.
Sure.
And so what do you guys like about, and this is really lighthearted, what do you guys like about, living in the U.S. versus, living abroad? I know you guys are a lot more well-traveled than I am. I mean, the only place that I think I've ever been to outside the country was, years ago, when I visited Niagara Falls with my family, and we went over the line over to Canada. And that's the only time I've ever realistically been outside of the country. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I would say in the U.S., I love the ability to, like, there's a lot more opportunity here. There's a lot more ways to make money than there is over in, say, Europe or somewhere in South America. And obviously the taxes are lower than Europe. I like that aspect. I would say, as for Europe, though, like, Europe has a much more relaxed view when it comes to work. So a lot of, like, I've been to different countries in Scandinavia, and they take very long lunch breaks where they'll have like coffee and cake for like 2 hours.
Dang.
And they'll work a couple hours in the morning, and then they're like, by the end of lunch, they're like checked out by the end of the day. And the food, I think, in Europe is much healthier.
Oh, so much
They have
better.
less preservatives, and I think less processed stuff than we do. So whenever I've had meals over there, I'm always like, wow, I feel good and I feel full. Whereas in the US, you could have a full meal, full Mexican, meal, and then, 2 hours later, you're like, oh, I'm hungry again, and I feel bloated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it depends where you go outside of the United States. Like, I've only been to England, which was, I guess, part of Europe, but it's the UK. And I didn't think the food was good at all. Like, all they had was
Really?
like fish and chips and like bangers and mash and just like food. Like,
Common food.
just after a couple of days, you're like, I want to go back and eat American food, because like, at least America has everything. Like, they have English food, they have all kinds of cuisines, like Latin food, French food. Like, you get everything.
A wide variety of food. You get
Huge
over here,
variety. But when you go to other countries, like, that's all they got. Like, they have English food. Now, I do hear Italy's food is awesome.
Phenomenal.
I hear it's amazing.
I
would love to go to Italy and experience that. But my experience with European food was just England, and their food sucked. So
I can imagine. Yeah, the Brits don't make good food.
yeah, like, they're not known for their food. They're known for like other things, like history,
Diplomacy.
whatever it is. But
Good
not
accents.
bringing like coffee to the world or whatever from, like, Asia or wherever coffee came from, but tea or whatever. But they're not known for like cuisine. That's not England's strong
No.
suit.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely not.
I wanted to thank you guys for another great episode of here on Busy on Break. So, obviously we're going to try and, get to this a little bit more often, try to film a little bit more often, post a little bit more often. But Shane, thank you very much for your contributions. Rylan, thank you
Thanks,
very much for
everyone.
your contributions. We do expect guests here very soon to liven up the conversation. Just wanted to say one thing. Thank you, Dave Grohl. I appreciate you, good sir.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Danny Vito.
All right, sounds great. Hey, guys, thank you very much for everything, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Busy on Break. Woo! Have a good one.
I'm going.